Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of I Am Sat. I am your host, Maddie Quinney, and what a day, what a week, what a month. We are fully in the new year. What are we doing? What are we doing? I haven't recorded in a minute, so this might be a little rusty, but we have quite an episode in store for you today. This is going to be my very first episode, kind of doing a bit of a recap or history lesson, if you will, on today. It'll be on Leonardo da Vinci. Also, something about me is I really struggle at saying the word Leonardo. Like when I talk about Leonardo DiCaprio, I really struggle saying his name. So rest assured, right before this, I was like doing the whole like tip of the tongue at the mouth shit. But I was like, Leonardo. So hopefully I don't mess it up. But if I do, just don't bully me, or you can. Don't worry, I'm already bullying myself, so it's fine. Anyway, that's what the episode is going to be about today. Later on, I have a few things to cover at the beginning of this little episode, but later we will be kind of doing a little deep dive on him. I watched the Ken Burns PBS documentary on Amazon Prime about Leonardo da Vinci, and the reason why I did that was because my sister Chelsea, I'm laughing because there are several things about this podcast that I am, I've been introduced to from her that I'm going to talk about on my podcast. So it's fine. I just have the coolest sister ever. It's fine, whatever. But yeah, very interesting documentary, and we will definitely get into it later. But for now, I have a few things I'd like to talk about. First of all, on my second episode, I listened to it over again. I have a few things to say about this. I actually watched it on YouTube, just to make sure, just to make sure I'm not out here being crazy. I decided I am, but when I was looking at the plant next to me, I said, I am fully responsible for that. And on that episode, when I was like, I'm actually so pissed about this. No, girl, I'm pissed at myself. I'm a bad plant mom. So I just wanted to make sure I had that plant disclaimer that I am the reason for them dying. I take full responsibility. It's something I'm working on. We're trying to be better plant parents here because, yeah, I don't want to be out here buying plants and just for them to die in my home. No. We're not doing that. So had to make that disclaimer. Also, I need to make my Lady Gaga episode a disclaimer. I know. It has not been released. We actually have not even recorded the episode yet, but rest assured that will happen. I decided I need to do her well. Both Austin and I decided we need to do her well. So we want to just make sure our episode content, the outline, everything is perfect. And also, I need a few of these types of episodes under my belt before I cover Lady Gaga, the queen herself. I need to know how to do this shit. So, and if there's anything I've learned since starting this podcast is that I am learning. I am learning that I just need to be a little bit more prepared, but it's fine. We are our own worst critics at the end of the day. So, at least that's what they say. And I resonate with that. So I'm out here critiquing every little move, but, and so if you are too, don't worry. I'm aware. I'm a self-aware queen, I think. I don't know. Maybe to a fault, but whatever. Anywho, my ramen journey. Okay, so my ramen journey. We've been doing very well with that. I have had one bowl of ramen in the last, I would say maybe 3 weeks, which is a huge feat for me. That's a big fucking deal. It's a big fucking deal. This is a big deal for me. However, I fear my streak will be up soon because I'm wearing glasses right now, and I said, actually, they're technically prescription, but I don't know. Is anyone out here thinking that the eye doctor is a scam, kind of? Like, I feel like I see better without these. I'll say it. Or maybe I just, like, fucked up my exam because I wanted glasses and I wanted to be the girl with the prescription. But either way, someone's scamming me. It may be myself. It may be the eye doctor. But I get a headache every time I wear these. So, yeah. Okay. I think I'm learning something about myself. So I wanted to be the girl with the prescription, but I just don't think I have one. Like, at least this type of prescription. Anyway, okay, boring. Moving on. Ramen journey. I fear that my streak will be up soon because, so something about me is I love watching Korean girl dinner on TikTok. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this is what it is. It's this girl who lives in like South Korea, and all of her TikToks are like girl dinner, and she goes to the Korean convenience store, buys like burak ramen, the same shit every single time. It's literally the same shit every time. It's just like slightly different products sometime, but it's usually the same shit. It's burak ramen, like I don't even know what they are. They're like rice things. I don't know. You heat them up in water and do the whole carbonara like bullshit on them. And then she gets like a packaged like meat skewer, and then this triangle. It's like a triangle of rice wrapped in seaweed with like tuna and shit inside of it. And so anyway, she eats it all together, and I don't know why, but that's like my favorite fucking shit to watch. Like, it is a no skip for me every single time. And for Christmas, Spencer bought me, because he knows this about me, but he bought me like burak ramen. I've never tried it before, but I've heard terrible things about it. I've heard great and terrible things about it. Like, everyone has basically the same shit to say about it, that it is so good, very spicy, but it's very good, and also like so bad for you, and you feel like shit after. And I've also been seeing stuff on TikTok back when it was like really, really popular. I was seeing stuff on TikTok from women who were saying that their menstrual cycles were getting really fucked up after eating burak ramen. So yeah, I'm a little scared to try it, but I'm like, I gotta, right? Like, he got me like the rice thing, and I have no idea what the fuck it is. It looks like literally a Cheeto puff or some shit, but I know that's not what it is. It's like the burak brand or whatever, but it's that, and then the ramen. I'm so scared to try it, genuinely. I fear for my life, but I have to, right? So by the next time I record, I will try it and give my honest take and review on it. So there's that. Also, if you follow me on Instagram, you probably have seen the whole book club shit that I've been talking about. We are going to read The Humans by Matt Haig, or Haig. Don't really know how to say it, but we are reading that. I just finished it recently, and wow, I've talked about it a lot on here, but I have so much to say about it. And on one of my highlights on my Instagram page, you can swipe up and, you know, send in some thoughts that you have about the book. There's also a link to do a voice memo. If you would rather do that, you can. And I think it's the 3rd week of March. I'm planning on doing the episode about that book. So if you're listening and you're curious about it and want to be a part of it, I would love that. You don't even have to submit any thoughts or anything, but if you'd like to know what we're talking about by that time, I would love to have you there. I personally ate that book up. It was so good. I loved it. Okay, so yeah, that's all. Also, okay, I went to Las Vegas the weekend after New Year's with, it was me, Spencer, Courtney, and Joe. You guys will probably hear about Courtney and Joe a lot. We hang out with them a lot. They're like some of our best friends right now. But we went to Las Vegas, and I've always hated Las Vegas. Like, even post being Mormon, pre and post Mormonism, I've always hated Vegas. I've always been like, ew, such a gross city. Like, it's so weird. It literally is like a simulation. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's giving Peter Jackson, like that scene in the movie, if you know what I'm talking about. Wait, it's not Peter Jackson. I always do that. I always call it Peter Jackson. It's Percy Jackson. Like the Greek mythology, fantasy, whatever the fuck, novels. You know the one, right? You know the one. If you've seen the movie, I always think, when I think of Vegas, I always think of that casino scene and think about how, like, weird it is. Like, I don't know, it just feels so kooky to me, the whole idea of Vegas, and I don't know, it's just always felt so scammy to me. However, we went recently with Courtney and Joe, and I had the time of my life, genuinely. I was told by my friend Austin before I left, he said, Maddie, you just have to, like, accept Vegas for what it is, and you'll have a blast. And so I did. I said, you know what? It is kind of a weird ass vibe and like a weird simulation vibe, but like, I'm just going to embrace it and have fun. And I had so much fun. I actually have like a way different take on Vegas, and low key, it kind of changed my life. That's crazy, but it's true. That's crazy to say, but it's true. It like low-key changed my life, because when I was in Vegas, I was just like, literally anything goes here. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Like, literally anything goes here. And I said, we're letting down our inhibitions. We are being so free, and we are just soaking up this experience. We're going to see where it takes us. And I was crazy, but like in the best way possible. And I also like, I don't know. It's like, because I was in Vegas, I just had this wacky sense of confidence to strut around and be like super confident and sexy and hot and cute and funny and flirty. And I don't know, it's just like this energy that I was feeling the whole weekend. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, this has been inside of me this whole time. Like, what do you mean? And so after I came back from Vegas, I said, that isn't unique to Vegas. Like, I can channel that energy all the time, or like whenever I'm capable of channeling it, you know. Sometimes the old monsters in our skulls get to us. I just went through a little phase myself, but you know, once we're out of our mental health spells, we can access that anytime, all the time. We can be that it girl. We can just literally throw caution to the wind. It doesn't fucking matter. Just be yourself, like, and be hot and fun and flirty. Like, it doesn't matter. Fuck it. So yeah, Vegas is a mentality now, and we are embracing that mentality as much as we can. Okay, so I have, like, obviously my little segments that I do every week. We have Banger of the Week, French Phrase of the Week, and Local Biz of the Week. Banger of the Week. Look, I've been in a little bit of a rut recently, but I rediscovered this book that I bought years ago. It's Selected Poems by E.E. Cummings. I don't know. I want to get into poetry more. I really do, because I love it. And this was just something that I bought a few years ago, and I literally got like one page in, that's it. But I was reminded of this poem, and I thought it was just really cute. And I don't know, I like it. This segment in the book is called Days of Innocence, and it's actually the very first poem. So I'm going to read it to you. Gather round, chillins. Let's read together. Okay, it goes, who are you, little eye, 5 or 6 years old, peering from some high window at the gold of November sunset, and feeling that if day has to become night, this is a beautiful way. I don't know, I really like that. First of all, I really like the way that, I don't know, I like that first line, who are you, little eye? Like, little eye, I really like that, I don't know, that name for your younger self. Like, it feels so endearing, it feels so compassionate, and lovely. You know, I think oftentimes for me personally, when I am going through it mentally, there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of like self-loathing involved, and even to my little self, you know. But when I don't know why, just like this name for my smaller self, my younger self, little I, just like kind of takes me out of that. And it's like, no, that's little I, that's little me. Like, that's so cute, you know? And then I also just love the whole premise of the poem, or at least what I feel like the premise is. It's talking about little I peering from some high window at the gold of November sunset and feeling that if day has to become night, this is a beautiful way. Like, just, I don't know, that like simple awareness of how beautiful life is around you, and being so enamored by a sunset, the transition between day and night. Like, I don't know, I just love that. It really provides a very innocent perspective on life, and when life can feel just so heavy sometimes, you know, especially lately. I don't know what's in the air, man. I mean, we all know what's in the air. We know what's in the world. But, you know, it's crazy out there, bro. It's crazy out there, and we need a bit of lightness and innocence, in my opinion. So there you have it. Banger of the week. French phrase of the week. I honestly did not know. You know, we're going to keep it simple. So to say woman in French is la femme. Yeah. The more you know. If you are like me and you're coming from zero knowledge of French at all, that's valuable. La femme. And then local biz of the week. So there's a new sushi spot in Salt Lake, and I tried it with my friend Parker a couple of weeks ago. I saw them on Instagram or something, or I think it was TikTok. My TikTok is like filled with new businesses in Salt Lake City. That reminds me, I actually have another one to shout out. I haven't been there yet, but they do have an event coming up soon. Anyway, it's Momomaru Sushi. It's hand rolls. So if you've ever been to LA, or I think in New York they have it too, it's called Kazunori, I think. Chelsea, let me know if that is true. If that's what it's called. But it's like a hand-rolled sushi bar in LA that I love. Again, Chelsea, my sister, the coolest person I know, introduced it to me because she lives in LA. Of course she does. And it is stunning, beautiful, literally so amazing. It's such a vibe, and it's just so delicious and so fresh. And so I saw that Salt Lake was opening a bar very similar to Kazunori, and so yeah, Parker and I took a little swing in and tried it out, and it's delicious, and also such a vibe. And they have, so like you got to follow them on Instagram. I think it's like Roll with Momomaru. I think that's what it's called, like their handle. Anyway, you got to follow them on Instagram. Their Instagram is such a vibe. Whoever's in charge of that shit like knows what the fuck they're doing. But the restaurant itself is so cool because obviously, you know, you got a sushi bar, hand-rolled sushi bar in the front, but in the back, there's a coffee shop called 10. And I haven't tried that yet. I really want to, but lovely, like such a vibe and very delicious. So check it out. If you're in the area, check it out. Thank God we are getting cool places to eat that actually have good food. Like, that is my biggest gripe about Salt Lake City, is that for the longest time is like, I don't know, I feel like all of these dumbass, like fucky ass, like restaurants kind of pop up, and I could think about Sunday's Best. It's the best example for me. Sunday's Best. It's like, okay, it's a very cute restaurant, very aesthetically pleasing, very much like aimed towards influencer culture, housewife culture, obviously, you know. But when you go there and try the food, it's like not that good. It's like actually not good. And I feel like a lot of places in Utah can kind of become susceptible to that, where it's just like they are looking for the vibes, because the influencers and the girlies who are like that will go there for the Instagram pic, you know, and they will make money off of that, because they don't need to rely on the quality of their food, because they have a good atmosphere, right? And so, but for me, an average Joe who is a foodie, I'm like, girl, I just want good food. Can we get some good food here, please, for the love of God? So thank God. And a lot of other stuff there, you know, Salt Lake is popping off right now. I'll say it. They really be popping off, and I'm so grateful to be a part of that. I really am. Speaking of like local businesses and stuff, there is a place. Oh my gosh, where is it? Oh girl, I'm gonna post it on the Instagram, I think. But it is a place. It's an altering place that this alt girly is. Okay, I don't know what it's called, but the address is 1956 South, 1100 East. On the 31st of January, she's having her like grand opening. She's this like alt baddie who decided that she wanted to open her own alteration business and service, which thank God, because I really want a lot of things altered, but I feel like I'm so bad at learning new things like that. And also I'm like, I don't trust anyone to do this shit, you know, like I don't even know where to go and whatever. But yeah, she's this all baddie who also like makes her own clothes, and she sells her own clothes at the store. So anyway, check it out. I'm going to be there. I'm going to try to make it, because, you know, we out here supporting local businesses, especially new ones. Okay, without further ado, let's get into the meat of this episode. Leonardo da Vinci, baby. Who is he? First of all, I do want to make a quick disclaimer about history. Really, it's not much of a disclaimer, but something that I've just been thinking a lot about recently and having a lot of conversations about also is like history in general, and how history, I think it all started, oh my God, me interrupting myself every 2 seconds. It all started with Haley Rawl, of course. I swear to God, I mention her every single episode, but she did an episode about the historical Jesus, and she did some research about Jesus and kind of started talking about history, and how like with one of the lectures that she watched on the historical Jesus, the professor was explaining how history is so unique, because we've always been taught that like history is what happened in the past, but it really isn't. History is what we can gather about what happened in the past, because there's no way to go back in time and relive a moment, you know? All we have are records of that moment through the eyes of the witnesses or the people a part of the things that happened in the past. You know what I'm saying? And so it's convoluted and it's nuanced, because yeah, like I was actually just telling Spencer this. We had a conversation about this last night, but like, for instance, like a human could look at, like 3 separate humans could look at the sun for the first time and have totally different interpretations of what they saw, right? Like depending on how they believe, how they view their own life, how they perceive life in general, why they're here, everything. One person can look at the sun and say that's God. One person could look at the sun and say that's a big star in the sky that is heating our planet. And another person could look at the sun and say that's an alien, you know? But like they all saw the same shit, but they have a totally different way of interpreting it, you know? So I think that history is just so interesting, because like depending on who's telling the story, like it's a totally different story. And not that like a biography of someone is biased or anything, but I just thought I'd like throw in that thought, because I've been thinking about that a lot recently, and how like it's kind of hard to say. Who's to say? You know? And like the people who write our history books and stuff, it's like, who's to say who wrote that? You know, like what kind of biases did they have? Because I feel like as human beings, we are constantly moving through life trying to validate our own narrative that we have made up in our head. And it doesn't matter how many facts we're presented with about a certain subject. If it goes against the narrative and the bias that we have, we will not believe it, you know? So it's just interesting. History is a really interesting topic, and I've been finding myself more and more intrigued about it. So anyway, yeah, that's not really a disclaimer because I'm pretty sure all of this shit fucking happened. I don't know. But and it's like, it's a biography, bitch, like Jesus Christ. Anyway, I just thought I'd like throw that in there because, you know, this is my podcast and I'm here to talk about everything that's on my mind. So deal with it, bitch. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so Leonardo da Vinci. He was born on April 15th, 1452. Is that a Taurus? I think that's Taurus season. Wait, let me look it up really fast. Oh, Aries. Oh, this man was an Aries. That's actually so interesting. A fiery personality, which, you know what? Checks the fuck out to me. Checks the fuck out to me after everything I've learned. This man, yeah, he's out here doing what he wants to do, and he cannot be bothered to be told any otherwise. This man had so many unfinished pieces of art because he had enough and he'd walk away. And, you know, later in his life, he actually got in trouble by the whoever was like ruling Florence, Italy at the time. They had, like, I guess Florence, Italy had commissioned Leonardo da Vinci for a panel of like I don't remember exactly what it was. It was kind of just like the story of Jesus basically, and it was a piece of art. Like one of the panels was like a piece of art of Mary, John the Baptist, and Christ, and John the Baptist and Christ were like little babies, and Leonardo da Vinci got pretty far in it and just decided, I don't want to do this anymore, or like whatever. Also, don't fact check me. Do not fact check me, actually. This is going to be like a very loose recap of his life and story and my takeaways of it. But yeah, he simply was just like, no. And so he walked away from it. And then like 20 years later, whoever was ruling Florence at the time reached back out to him and said, you need to come back and finish this piece of work. And at the time he was commissioning art, or he was being commissioned art projects by like whoever was leading France. God, I don't know names. And the leader of France was like, no, he's mine now. Like, deal with it. So yeah, Aries king over here. He was born in Florence, Italy, which after watching this, I want to visit Florence. There's so much art history there. So much art history. So interesting. He was born illegitimate to Ser Pier da Vinci, who was a notary. And then Caterina was a suspected peasant woman. He didn't have a traditional education. He was self-taught. He was an observer. He learned by observation and by nature and just watching the world and internalizing the world around him, which is so cool. He really did reject like authority-based education and preferred the observation, experimentation, and lived experience as a mode of learning. Some of his most famous pieces of art, obviously the Mona Lisa. If you didn't know that, that's Leonardo da Vinci did that. He worked on that from 1503 to 1519, and that is currently in the Louvre. He did the Last Supper that he worked on from 1495 to 1498, and that is in Milan. The Vitruvian Man, which is like the perfect man or whatever. We've all seen that sketch, right? He worked on that in 1490. That's in Venice. The Adoration of the Magi, that was an unfinished piece of art. Super fascinating. That piece of art I learned a lot about. Just, you know, it's so fascinating. Like that era of time, late 1400s, the Renaissance era. No, sorry. I believe they were getting out of the Renaissance era and moving into the humanism era. So fascinating, because I just learned that like their interpretations or like their portrayals of Christ specifically changed a lot. Like the Renaissance was very like leaned into the mystical, the supernatural side of Christ. But then in the humanism era, people were becoming a lot more skeptical and wanted to portray actual like reality. And so a lot of the art about Christ was realistic. And it was really interesting learning about Leonardo da Vinci because, especially with the Adoration of the Magi, I believe that is let me just fact check myself. Yeah, this was a piece of art that was commissioned. Okay, so it's I think the Mother Mary holding Jesus in almost kind of like a central, almost like it looks like a town square situation, and all of the people in the town square are just gathering around adoring Christ. And learning about this piece, a huge part of Leonardo da Vinci's personality and motivation in art was to portray realistic scenarios. And so like even with the Last Supper, if you take a real good look at that piece, which is so crazy, oh my gosh, there's so much I could say. If you take a good look at that piece, like, and how people interpret it, all of the reactions around Christ, this was like supposed to be the moment that Christ tells everyone, like, one of you will betray me. And so you see the reactions of everyone around him, and it's all very realistic portrayals of what would happen actually in that moment. And so many people are like, not me, like having not I, right? Like, and having that reaction of like, that couldn't be me. And, there's anger, there's sorrow, and then you see Judas, and that's the only one who's like kind of keeping his shit tight. And, it's so fascinating. Like the passion for realism and to portray a realistic scenario at this time when so many people had historically been really leaning into like the supernatural. So anyway, I don't know, I just find that so fascinating, and I really do like find the era of Christ really fascinating. And now, not being in religion, I just find all of it so crazy. And Leonardo da Vinci himself, he was not really like a religious person. He was, like, as you can probably guess, he wasn't anti-religion, but he just was not, he didn't really like associate himself with that. He really like leaned into the religion of nature, really. That was like his religion, was nature and observation. Oh yes, there was not just like the religion of nature, but the religion of like experience. That was like kind of his thing. And what he kind of based all of his knowledge off of was experience, observation, and nature. And he famously said that he was a disciple of experience, which I love. I love that. I really admire that kind of mentality. In his early studies, he would study and just laser focus in on drapery and cloth and light and shadow and landscape, and just how like the light hits everything. And I found the whole drapery thing really fascinating, because that would be such a perfect way to learn about light and the way it hits objects. And the way he was able to portray it was something that like no one had ever seen before. It was just so dimensional and so accurate and realistic. Really, everything he did was like to be realistic and to be precise. And I just think that's fascinating. And it would take an immense amount of observation and studying to get that right, He, honestly, something I learned about this documentary, that he was like low-key a feminist. Before this era, like in the Renaissance era and everything, like all of the famous artists were never, ever painting or portraying women in, like, no portrait of a woman was head on. Like, there were no portraits of women that were looking at the viewer of the painting. It was always side profiles or looking down or being involved in something. But Leonardo da Vinci was the first artist we know of to create art pieces of women who are looking at the viewer of the art piece. And it really was like pretty progressive for the time. And yeah, it was just women meeting the gaze of the viewer, and it suggested that women deserve to look the viewer in the eye, and that they shouldn't look away, and they shouldn't be submissive, that they have their own personality, they have something to bring to the table. You know, it suggested all of these things that weren't really they weren't really popular in that era. And so a lot of his commissioners honestly were women also, because I think, you know, he just did a really phenomenal job at portraying women in an anatomical sense, but also in an emotional sense. He had a really, really good way of portraying human emotion through facial expressions. He was really fascinated. He believed that in order to understand how to portray emotion in one's face, you had to understand the anatomy of face and the eyes and the brain. And so a lot of his studies were him trying to understand anatomy. And I just think that's so fascinating. And he does such a good job at it. If you look at any of his art pieces, especially portraits of women or really anyone, you can tell. I mean, obviously the Mona Lisa, that's one of the reasons why it's so famous, is because, you know, there's just so much there. It's what is she thinking about? You know, this person feels alive, you know, that this painting that you're looking at feels alive. And that's something that was not happening for its time in the art world, you know. So fascinating. Also, he was suspected by king, or maybe fully gay. So we love to hear that. Also, another thing I loved learning about him was he was so geographically precise, and he was so passionate about getting the proportions right. And he also was kind of he just had a really efficient and unique approach to creating dimension in a space. It was just extremely geographical, and the way he would go about a painting, and, you know, making sure the focal point was at a certain place. In the documentary, honestly, y'all should watch it if you want, but in the documentary, they talk about the creation of the Last Supper painting, which is such a famous one. Also, if you don't know this, because I didn't know this, I thought the Last Supper painting was fully a canvas painting, or on wood or some shit like that. No, he was commissioned by I think his name is Schwarza. He was I think it was in, wait a minute. Let me check. Oh yeah. He was kind of the leader of Milan at the time, and he commissioned Leonardo da Vinci to paint this mural on this wall. And so I didn't realize this, but yeah, when you look at pictures of it now, or if you were to go and see it now, it's obviously decaying, because it was on a wall literally so long ago, 500 years ago. No. Yeah, 500 years ago almost, or just about, which is crazy. I don't know. I just thought that was so wild. Such an iconic piece of art on a wall. And they tried to take it off to preserve it and put it in a museum, but it was just too delicate. So she's there. She's in Milan on a wall. But yeah, just seeing the whole process of that, and how he sketched out geographical lines to make sure everything was proportionate, and then, you know, painted plaster on the wall, and also learning about the types of paint they used. It was all from crushed up rocks. It's just crazy, you know, when you are a modern girl like me, I'm not thinking about that stuff on a day-to-day. I'm wait a minute, no, they actually crushed up lapis lazuli. Is that what it's called? The blue rock. They literally crushed that up and added shit to it to make it a paint. That's wild. And he would use shells to paint, to hold his paint. like, I don't know. It's just so ancient, and it feels so ancient and cool to me. I don't know. I love it. Oh, another thing about him that I learned that I loved learning about was how he was like literally an engineer. And this was new for the time because they didn't really have a lot of artists who would draw pictures of like mechanisms or like prototypes of things, like, but he was doing that because he was so incredibly curious about everything, and he just wanted to know how everything worked and how it could work, and how he was like brainstorming shit all the time. And like another thing he was so passionate about and curious about was like flight. He loved birds and studying birds and the way that their wings worked, and like the aerodynamics of a bird and how a bird flies, because he was making up sketches for like airplanes and shit to get us in the sky. And as far as we knew, that he was the first person recorded in history to bring that idea to light. Like, no one had ever thought that before. Isn't that crazy? Like, he paved the way for the Wright brothers, which is crazy. And like something he was passionate about too was like talking about how the universe is so broad, and everything comes from the universe, but it all starts with a thought, especially with like human creation. It all begins in the mind, and how like powerful the mind is. And I totally agree with that. I don't know. I just feel like he was way ahead of his time. Way ahead of his time. Oh, God. He was crazy. And also, he was, like, so passionate about... Okay. So, my camera totally took a shit on me. I'll be so for real with you. I actually have no idea where I left off or, like, what the fuck I was talking about. So... this will be interesting. I think, we're reaching the end of our time here anyway. So I think I will just leave the last little bit of this. I don't even know. I think I was talking about like how Leonardo da Vinci was like into birds and stuff, and like always engineering shit and like drawing stuff that he wanted to engineer, or trying to help others engineer different prototypes or like things for like, I don't even know, just like literally anything really, like machinery. But he was like also really into nature. Like, he believed that all of the answers could be found in nature no matter what. Like, anything he was curious about, he felt like he could find it in nature. And honestly, he did almost. Like, he was so knowledgeable, and he found a lot of valuable information through nature. He would just observe, like, he was really into anatomy as well, and he would like dissect dead people to understand the nervous system and our organs and how they were laid out and everything. And as he was discovering all of this, he was making connections to the things he found in nature, like how the roots of trees really resembled like the veins in our lungs or whatever, like there are so many similarities between his observations in nature and what he found in his... Oh my gosh, I'm just so distracted about how my camera just like totally took a shit. Like, I mean, that's fine, but I just was like in the flow state, and now I'm having to readjust, which is fine, but we're just trying to get back into it. But yeah, no, he was just like so into nature. He was so into nature, this boy. He was a nature boy, and he found a lot of information through just observation and experiencing nature. And I don't know, I just feel like there's so much we can learn from learning about the people like him. I feel like something for me personally that I was very inspired by was his curiosity for everything. I think curiosity is such a unique... I think curiosity is such a unique attribute, because as I mentioned earlier when I was talking about like history and how interesting history is, we all have insane biases, and curiosity is the courage to ask like why or how something works without being afraid of finding out what the answer is, and just like wanting to know the truth. Like curiosity is so unique in that way. And I admire Leonardo da Vinci because he was just so like, I'm sure he had his biases as well, but like he just was interested in learning more, and he didn't seem to care really what that meant or what that entailed. He didn't seem to have like these biases or these narratives that he was trying to like fixate, or not fixate, but like build around, right? Like he just was, he would observe something in nature or observe something in life and ask a question and go find the answer. And I don't know, I just find that really inspiring. I think like we can learn so much by just being curious and not being afraid of what we learn and what we find out. And I think that like helps us be more knowledgeable. I think ego and our attachments to our narratives are what keeps us like super inhibited from learning more and absorbing more information. And I mean, it's all up to you. Maybe you don't really want to, maybe you don't want to be smarter. Maybe you're okay with your narrative. No, but like really that's fine. You know, like you live your life however you want to live it. And what's important to one person may not be important to the other. But for me personally, I like to learn and I like to understand. And I don't know, especially, I mean, I talk about this a lot, but especially as someone who has left really organized religion and intense religion. And I mean, I grew up learning, severely believing that, you know, the Book of Mormon was the true word of God, and that Joseph Smith was a true prophet, and all of these things, you know. And so leaving all of that behind and realizing like there is a whole other world out there where we don't know anything. Like, I don't know, me personally, I'm curious. I want to know what's going on out there. I want to know. I'm not going to make it my life mission, but like when I have the opportunity to be curious and when I have the space to find out my answer, like I'm going to do it, you know? And so I just like, I don't know, that's like my takeaway from, those were some of my takeaways from learning about Leonardo da Vinci. And yeah, I don't know. I also really liked his whole attitude, kind of like what I was saying when I was discovering that he is an Aries. I really like his attitude about just authority. Like he just seemed to not really have, like he used authority to his advantage to get money for the art that he produced, and you know, you got to make a living somehow. But he just like, when he wanted to walk away, he walked away, you know. And he didn't really seem to have like a complex about authority, or he wasn't here to like please anyone. He just kind of did what he wanted and he beat to his own drum. And I just find that really inspiring, because I think as humans, like we can really fall under the spell of authority and like also fear when we consider authority. But we're all just as powerful as whoever's in charge. I say that with heavy air quotes. And like when we want to walk away, we can walk away, you know? And like obviously that's nuanced as well, but like I don't know, I just found that attitude really inspiring, especially in this day and age. Jesus Christ. I also, let's see. Oh, a fun little fact about him. I feel like this is like a trivia fact. So if any of you guys are in like a trivia game war thing, and this comes up, like you're welcome. But he wrote from right to left because he was left-handed, and he documented everything, all of his findings, and he didn't want to smear his ink, and so he wrote from right to left, which I don't know if that was like super normal for the time, but I thought that was really interesting. So all of his writings are meant to be read from like right to left. Isn't that crazy? I love that. I think that's dope as fuck. Oh, also, on the note of like curiosity and not having bias, something that he would always say is, I'm going to butcher this. This isn't the direct quote, but this is basically what he said, is when you take a look at your surroundings, don't look to expect to see something, see what is there. So like what he meant by that is like there was a period of his life where he would just like get lost, like almost look like he's in a daze or something, and he'd just stare at floorboards, because he's not staring at a floorboard. He's staring at what he sees within the floorboard. Like, does he see a mountainscape? Does he see is he seeing like the patterns of water within the floorboard? Or he would like look at branches on trees and read between the lines or something, like, you know what I mean? Like he wasn't looking at branches of trees, he was seeing outlines of things, and he would like see the world in that type of way, and left a lot of room for imagination. And that is another thing that I find very inspiring, and something that I'm going to take away from this. I'm going to try to take a look at the world in that type of way. That's a very like, I don't know, it kind of connects to personally, like, the poem that I wrote. Yeah. So I'm E. Cummings. No, the poem that I read at the beginning of this episode, just like, I feel like that's such like an innocent way to view the world, and such a childlike way to look at the world, and a very romantic way to look at the world. And I think like, no matter what era you live in, no matter what generation you are, life is fucking hard. Like, and the world is hard. It's heavy, you know? And I think to look at the world in with that type of perspective just adds a lot of beauty and romance and light in your life, you know? Like I'd imagine I'm going to start trying to do that. I feel like I got to train my brain to think that way, but, yeah, or like, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of like when you were a kid and you would lay on the grass and look at the clouds and be like, oh, that looks like a dinosaur, you know? I want to get back to that. That feels really nice. And anyway, I just found this whole documentary to be very inspiring for so many reasons. I learned so much about history, art history, and just Leonardo da Vinci himself. I did want to, before I close out, I did want to just give a brief little like recap of the Mona Lisa, because honestly, I feel like no matter who you are, I swear to God, we like none of us really like know what the fuck the Mona Lisa is. But he started the Mona Lisa in 1503. It was a commissioned piece of art by Francesco del Giocondo, a wealthy Florentine merchant. And yeah, it was commissioned by him. And the sitter of the painting was likely a woman named Lisa Gerardini. I'm probably butchering that. And who was the wife of the commissioner. But Leonardo like took his time with this, and it's suspected that this painting wasn't just a commission for him. It was also like a passion project for him. And in the painting of the Mona Lisa, you know, you have her and then this kind of like ambiguous landscape in the background. And so a lot of people interpret the ambiguous landscape. It's also kind of like blurred and you don't really know where it is. A lot of people interpret that as like nature is always moving. It's always evolving. It's, you know, like it's shifting. It's ancient. Another reason why this painting is so famous is just what Leonardo does best. He is his expressions. Like when you look at this painting, it is like she's slightly smiling. Like you gotta wonder like what she's thinking. The way he was able to portray this emotion is crazy. So yeah, anyway, many people admire it for the anatomy of it all, and just the facial expression of it all. So I thought I just have to I had to talk about that, because the Mona Lisa is like quite literally one of the most famous paintings of all time. It is iconic as fuck. And yeah, I don't know. I love Leonardo da Vinci. I loved learning about him. He just really had a passion for what he was passionate about. And he made his whole life revolved around his curiosities and his passions, and bringing those things to life through actual paintings, actual prototypes of things, drawings of prototypes. Like it just was all his mind. Like his mind was such a crazy, like I would love to be a fly on the wall in his mind. I feel like it would be going all the time, like just constantly thinking, you know. It's just very inspiring. So the moral of the story is we are going to leave room for imagination when we take in our surroundings. We are going to be curious and not biased, and we're not going to be afraid of new information that challenges our narratives. And we're going to beat to our own drums, baby. We are going to defy authority. No, there are so many takeaways of this, but I had a great time. Thank you to my sister Chelsea again for introducing me to this documentary. She's been telling me about it for so long, and I'm so glad I finally was able to watch it. And when I did, I said, yeah, we're talking about this. We are talking about this. So anyway, thank you for sitting with me today. And I'm looking forward to more episodes like this. I learned so much, and it's so fun to just internalize, process, talk about our takeaways. So anyway, okay, I'm going to leave you here with that. And I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, week, evening, whatever time it is, and love you all. Thank you for your support and being here. We will sit with each other next week. Bye.